They say the devil walks in the skin of men, but sometimes she wears the face of a woman. In the frost-bitten hills of 16th century Hungary, there stood a castle, stone walls towering over the Carpathian countryside. Its halls were cold, its windows dark, but what happened within them was darker still. This is the true story of Countess Elizabeth Bathory, a woman of noble blood, a woman of unholy appetite. By the time the torches came for her, dozens of bodies had been found, some torn open, some drained of blood, many little more than bone and bruises. They called her the Blood Countess, but even that name didn't quite capture the horror. She wasn't a vampire, she wasn't a witch, she was worse. Because Elizabeth Bathory was real, and her story isn't a myth. It's a matter of record, preserved in testimony, written in confessions, and soaked into the earth beneath her castle walls. Elizabeth Bathory was born in 1560 into one of the oldest and most powerful families in Hungary. The Bathory name carried wealth and something else, a sickness. There were whispers of madness in the bloodline. Her uncle was obsessed with alchemy, her aunt rumored to be a witch, her brother drank until the servants feared for their lives. And Elizabeth, she suffered from seizures as a child. Her caretakers bled animals to treat her, pressing the blood to her lips to still the trembling. Some believe that ritual, the taste of blood, left an imprint. Others say the sickness was never in her body, but in her soul. She was beautiful, fluent in 4 languages, well educated in politics and theology, but beneath the elegance was a deep vein of cruelty. At the age of 15, she was married to Ferenc Nadasti, a nobleman and soldier feared for his brutality on the battlefield. The union was political, cold. But Ferenc taught her what he knew. He showed her how to punish disobedient servants, spikes under fingernails, strips of flesh flayed from the back, freezing water poured on naked skin in the dead of winter. And Elizabeth learned quickly. When Ferenc died in 1604, Elizabeth was left with vast estates, and no one to restrain her. Her cruelty deepened. She became judge, jailer, and executioner. At first, the victims were her servants, poor girls from villages, no one important, no one the crown would miss. One would vanish, then another. A peasant might say his daughter never returned. A cousin might wonder why their niece went to the castle and was never seen again. But complaints against nobility were dangerous. Even the families of the missing were afraid to speak, and so the silence grew. Behind stone walls, under candlelight, the Countess Bathory practiced her own rituals of pain, degradation, and death. The rumors spread like rot, first among peasants, then among priests, and finally, they reached the king. By 1610, there were too many disappearances to ignore. Elizabeth Bathory wasn't just a widow with a temper. She was now suspected of something else entirely: murder. King Matthias II sent a man to investigate, George Thurzo, the Palatine of Hungary, one of the most powerful men in the kingdom, a man who knew Elizabeth personally. What he found became the stuff of nightmares. Over 300 witnesses were interviewed: servants, guards, clergy. Some had seen the bodies, some had helped dispose of them, some had merely heard the screams, and a few had survived. They spoke of dungeons slick with blood, of mutilation, of young girls, some as young as 10, hanging from hooks, their bodies carved open. One girl was reportedly sewn shut at the lips, another was left to freeze to death in the snow. Some had been burned, others starved. The servants who remained confessed, some under torture, that they helped cover up the crimes. They named the Countess as their master, the one who gave the orders, the one who chose who would live and who would not. And then came the most damning piece of evidence: a ledger, allegedly written in Elizabeth's own hand. It contained the names of over 600 girls. Some historians doubt its existence, others believe it was destroyed to spare the nobility from deeper shame, but the claim alone was enough. In December of 1610, Thurzo and a team of soldiers stormed Castle Saktisse. They claimed to find mutilated bodies in the basement, blood-stained instruments, girls still alive, barely, chained to the walls, and one, already dead, laid out on a slab. But even then, Elizabeth Bathory was not arrested, not in the way common people are. She was nobility, and nobility required discretion. So they made a decision, a punishment that was neither public nor just. There was no trial, no defense, no formal charges read aloud in court. Because Elizabeth Bathory was a Bathory, and the Bathory name still held weight. To execute her publicly would tarnish the nobility. To let her walk free would incite revolt. So they chose a third option. They buried her alive. Not in earth, but in stone. In 1611, the Countess was sealed inside a single room of her castle. The windows were bricked shut, the door closed and mortared behind her. A small slit remained for food and water to be pushed through. She would live there, in the dark, with the weight of the walls pressing in. No visitors, no sunlight, no escape. The servants who helped her were executed. 3 were burned alive, 1 beheaded. The nobles called it justice, the peasants called it too late. And Elizabeth? She survived there for 4 years. No one knows what passed through her mind in that silent tomb. No one knows if she wrote, if she prayed, if she screamed. She died in August of 1614. The guards claimed she had whispered, "Do you not hear how cold I am?" When they opened the cell, she was slumped in the corner, cold, still, gone. No public burial, no gravestone, no monument. Only a castle, and what still lingers there. In the centuries since her death, Elizabeth Bathory has become more legend than woman. They call her a vampire, a demoness, the most prolific female killer in history. They say she bathed in the blood of virgins to preserve her youth. They say she drank it. But the truth is less theatrical, and somehow more terrifying. The infamous blood-bathing myth? It appeared 100 years after her death. No court record mentions it. No eyewitness confirms it. It was most likely invented to sell books, or to turn cruelty into dark fairy tale. Historians now question everything. Was she guilty of mass murder? Or was she the victim of a political scheme? The King of Hungary owed her family a massive debt. And once she was convicted, without trial, her lands and fortune were conveniently absorbed by the crown. And what of the confessions? Most were extracted under torture. Even the testimonies from her servants are riddled with contradictions. Some claim to have seen bodies, others claim to have seen nothing at all. And yet, the whispers began before the crown came calling. The villagers knew, the priests feared her, the families mourned girls who never returned. The blood may have been exaggerated, but the bodies were real, and the castle remembers. Stone holds silence, but it also holds secrets. And the name Elizabeth Bathory, whether monster, myth, or martyr, still echoes like a wound through the pages of history. She wasn't a vampire. She didn't need to be. She was something worse, human.